weekday afternoon baseball for you. Not far from the Johnson Space Center, the Houston Astros have been in orbit all season long as they come in with a American League best record of 63-31, playing game number 95 on the season. Mariners have played 95 already. They are one game under 500 and trail the Astros in second place in the AL West by 16.5 games. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday afternoon contest between the Astros and Mariners. Todd Callis alongside Jeff Blum. And Blummer, chance to win a series and also go away with a winning homestand on this next road trip.
Yeah, we're right now one-day AC, which is after Correa. They did a good job of going out there and pulling out that win. But again, the mentality is to go out there and win as many series as you can here on out.
Today, they face a tough customer in the Mariners, James Paxton, who is really good against Houston this year.
No, this guy's fantastic, and the Astros faced him early on in the season when Paxton was healthy coming out of the spring training, and he's a great lefty. You can see the angle he works is quite tough. He also throws extremely hard. He's averaging 95.5 miles an hour on that fastball. That slider has proven to be an issue for Houston Astro hitters, trying to square that up and create an angle to put him in play. No runs against Paxton yet.
When you look at what the Astros have done against lefties, it was tough early in the season. It's been better lately.
Yeah, they've been facing some tough lefties early on in the season, and these guys were just trying to get their feet under them. Majority of the time, you're going to face right-handed pitching, but some of the left-handers that they've been seeing recently, they've turned those numbers around. A lot of it has to do with Brian McCann, Josh Reddick on the left-hand side doing a great job. But you also get some role players in there like Jake Marisnick, who obviously has good numbers, looking to get those numbers better against left-handers.
Now the Astros face their second lefty of this series today, taking on the Mariners' James Paxton. When we come back, we'll be joined by Julia Morales, and she will talk about how this lineup turns over with a strong bottom half of the order.
Series finale between the Seattle Mariners and the Houston Astros. Final game of this homestand as well. And the Astros coming off a good win last night. Of course, behind the solid performance of Brad Peacock. But the offense getting it done once again, showing they can continue to score runs without their then team leader in RBI, Carlos Correa. It's a complete offense. We've seen that all season long, 1 through 9. No weaknesses, right? We hear that from opposing pitchers all the time, but the bottom of the order continues to be so impressive in what they do. Check out on this homestand what they've done, the 380 average. 333 though average with runners in scoring position, lots of extra base hits, several home runs. They've had 5 so far on this homestand. We saw Evan Gattis go deep last night twice from the 7-hole. Alex Bregman's been great. He's been swinging it well here lately. Jake Marisnick, he had a big night a couple of nights ago. He's back in the lineup tonight, hitting 9th. These are the last 2 games, so we're getting a little more specific, but how impressive are those numbers? The 433 average, how about slugging at 900? And the OPS 1,300. Impressive stuff from these guys, and you know the top of the order continues to appreciate what they're doing for them, especially when they become table setters for guys like George Springer and Jose Altuve to drive them in, and we're looking for more of that today against the Seattle Mariners as they look for this series win. Stay right there. First pitch is coming up. Charlie Morton on the mound for the Houston Astros. We'll be right back.
On AT&T Sportsnet is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. National Hot Dog Day, Dollar Dog Afternoon here at Minute Maid Park. And yes, there are some teammates over there in the right field area trying to go Joey Chestnut.
You look at him. Got it right there in the tweet. I appreciate that, but that's a strong crew right there, probably getting after it today with the hot dog, National Hot Dog Day going on. It's good to see.
Glad you could join us on this Wednesday afternoon contest from Minute Maid Park. Astros looking to take this series and head on the road with a 4-2 homestand. Off day tomorrow and a 3-city trip coming up. Mariners wrapping up their road trip today. They are 4-1 so far on the trip. Gene Segura will lead things off. He's the shortstop, followed by Ben Gamble. Same lineup that we've seen for this series. Robinson Cano at second base. They have altered the catcher. Nelson Cruz the DH. Today it's Mike Zunino's turn to catch. Guillermo Heredia will bat 9th in left field. No Mitch Haniger as he's recovering from a finger injury. Seager Valencia Dyson in the lower part of the lineup.
Right-hander Charlie Morton going for your Houston Astros. 10-year Major League veteran, making his 3rd start since being activated from that DL stint that he had. Pitching relatively well. He did give up 4 earned runs last time out. He did get the win, also his 7th win on the season. Punched out 10 Minnesota Twins. Back on April 28th, he set a season and a career high with 12 punch outs of the Oakland A's. But a lot of those punch-outs are due to the fact that he is throwing much harder this season, averaging 96 miles an hour in the last 60 innings pitched.
So he'll face the Seattle team for the third time in his career, all three coming this season. And he starts Gene Segura off with a strike. Segura has faced Charlie Morton as much as anybody on this Mariners roster. He has 27 career at-bats, most coming in the National League days when he was with Milwaukee and Arizona, and Morton was with a number of National League teams. Beltran gets tested on the first play of the game, and yes, the glove is back.
It lives.
Pretty good jump by Carlos on that ball in left center field.
Well, considering he hasn't seen a ball off the bat out in the outfield for a good 2-3 months, who'd have thought the first ball would attack him? Baseball's a funny game, isn't it?
And the dugout reacts. Tip of the cap and laughter all around. Carlos Beltran had not started a game in the outfield since in Miami on May 16th. 43 straight games with the DH. In the first ball of the game, he's tested in the left center field. Here's a strike to Ben Gamble.
That was the other day, Monday, a couple days ago. They rested that glove in peace, or so they thought. We didn't know this was going to turn biblical and become a resurrection.
0-2. Well, Carlos getting a start today. AJ said you may see him get a start in the outfield in Philadelphia. You never want to see Carlos have to rest for 3 straight days. Didn't play in Atlanta, but that was just a 2-game series. Gamble fouls one back. Well, the 40-year-old looked good on his first attempt in the outfield today. Charlie Morton matched his career high in walks in his last start with 5. Only allowed 3 hits, struck out 10. Morton making his 3rd start since coming back from the disabled list with that strained lat. It's a Seattle Mariners lineup that looks a little different than the one earlier in the year. Now, we haven't seen Haniger in the series, but Gamble's been a nice addition who wasn't with the team early this season.
Well, we talked about some of the surprises in their rotation. Randa, Gavilio, but Ben Gamble for sure.
There wasn't a guy named Aaron Judge playing in New York. You would hear Gamble's name bandied about for a possible AL Rookie of the Year. He's been that good. That is close, but just misses up. 1-2 the count.
97 up under the hands from Charlie Morton.
Charlie's next start will come in Philadelphia on the road trip. It goes Baltimore 3, Philadelphia 3, Detroit 3. Philadelphia is kind of where Morton found that new velocity last season. Beltran on the second play will get a second opportunity. Of course he does. AJ Hinch has played Beltran for entire games where he's gone 6 or 7 innings without a ball hit out to him. And for the first time in over 2 months, he gets 2 balls hit to him.
That's what I mean. The baseball gods are watching. They understand the situation having Carlos Beltran out there. There's a phrase that is used. I'm not going to use it on air, but it ends in finder. Because I don't know if I feel that way about Carlos Beltran, but the ball will find you. People couldn't see it, but you gave me a grin like you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, Carlos said he likes to get out there and play the field when he can. Ryan McCann led the ceremonies that you saw, the funeral services on Monday. But apparently it was premature. Swing and a miss. That was a nasty pitch to Cano. It's 0-2.
Yeah, Cano's got one of the sweeter swings in all of baseball. But to create that kind of swing from Robinson Cano, got to give a little credit to Charlie Morton.
Cano coming into this season was a .347 career hitter against the Astros. This year they have done much better against him. Did have a base hit in last night's game, but he has hit under 200 so far this year against Houston pitching, 9 for 46. He does hit this ball high in the air, playable. Jake Marisnick waits for it. First fly ball that doesn't go to Beltran. Jake puts it away. 1, 2, 3 innings. Charlie Morton with 3 fly ball outs, 2 to the 40-year-old. Starting lineup presented by Southwest Airlines. Here is the Major League's best offense and how they line things up today. George Springer right at the top, 304, 27 home runs. Jose Altuve leading the American League in hitting. Yuli Gurriel hits number 3 in the lineup for the first time in his Major League Baseball career. Evan Gattis is the cleanup hitter. Carlos Beltran, Marwin Gonzalez, Brian McCann, Alex Bregman, and Jake Marisnick.
Left-hander James Paxton going for the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners feel that when he is healthy, he is comparable to a Chris Sale. He's got a funky delivery, creates a tough angle for hitters to try and create connections on him. His fastball in the mid-90s, has a slider, curveball, occasional changeup. You see in those 87 1/3 innings pitched. He has got 100 punch-outs. That whip is nice, right around 1. Last time out, got the W against the Chicago White Sox, getting 9 punch-outs. Ties a season high. He's had a couple times this year. He's had back-to-back games of 9 punch-outs.
Facing George Springer, the Astros still looking for their first run against Paxton this season, as Springer carries those 27 home runs to the plate. 9 leadoff home runs for George this year. Now back at 0-2. George is one of those guys who has hit well all around, but especially against lefties. He's hitting .337 with 9 home runs. 9 of his 27 have come against left-hand pitchers.
Paxton's only given up 2 home runs to the Houston Astros, both of them by George Springer.
1-2 the count. The Astros have faced him before this year. This year they've been mesmerized by him. 6 innings and 7 innings of shutout baseball. But overall he's 2-2 with a 3.16 against the Astros. There's a line drive towards center. Dyson had a nice jump on it and closes in a hurry for the first out.
League leaders are going to be presented by Houston Methodist. As we look at Jose Altuve and what he's doing on the year, 118 3-hit games since 2011. Most in Major League Baseball. Had a stretch here recently where he went 5 straight games of 3-hit baseball. But a man who just racks up hit after hit after hit after hit.
Altuve for a while was trailing in the hits department in the American League. And right before the All-Star break, he took that lead, and now he is running away with it. He is 13 ahead of the next closest competitor in the American League in hits. Jose coming in with 125, still trying to dig in at home plate. That ground's a little tough for Jose. Breaking Ball for a called strike. Jose needs to get some sharper shoes. He can't dig in.
Get the tractor out. And after every game, they replace the holes in the box with, I'm not sure what kind of clay, but I know it's a clay substance. Dries out, maybe get a little tough to kick out of there, but grounds crew here in Houston does a very good job of getting this place back in shape. But when you're hitting early in the lineup, got to create that your own hole early. It'll be completely different by his 4th at bat.
Breaking ball, swing and a miss. Paxton picks up a strikeout of Altuve. 2 outs in the first.
Good slider from Paxton.
Yuli Gurriel. Last year hit in the number 2 spot 11 games. Hit cleanup for a game or 2. Had never hit in the 3rd spot last year or this season until today. Takes a pitch outside and low for a ball. It's 1-0. Astros playing game 2 without their all-star 22-year-old shortstop Carlos Correa. Last night winning 6-2 in their first game without him. Today facing the tough left-hander James Paxton. Correa undergoing successful surgery on his thumb, and now we'll start the rehab process. Strike at the knees. It's 2-1.
It's going to be a tough zone to cover if you're trying to protect that far down in the zone at 95.
Good ride on that fastball. It's 2-2. Paxton out of Vancouver, British Columbia. 28-year-old left-hander making his 16th start, 66th of his career. In the air, shallow right, long run gamble, but he's there. And the Astros, just like the Mariners, down 1-2-3 in the first.
Houston tomorrow, the International Champions Cup in town. Manchester City versus Manchester United happening over there at NRG. And I'm with Paul Dickoff, who's a former player for Manchester City. And Paul, you said that you threw out the first pitch today. It was the first time ever you held a baseball?
This morning it was, yeah. So I must admit, look, I've played in front of big crowds before and done loads of things. I was really nervous. But look, honoured to be asked to do it. Don't get me wrong, but I had a great time, and thanks to everybody at the Astros for asking me to do it.
You're a professional athlete. It's fun to hear you say that you got a little bit nervous out there on that mound. Well, tell me about the friendly match that you say won't be so friendly tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously, look, both Manchester City, Manchester United, both huge clubs in soccer in the same town, so there's a huge rivalry there. And usually this time of the season, you know, pre-season, it's training. Preparing for the season, which will start in 3 weeks' time. So these pre-season games are usually a friendly, but with it being the Manchester derby, I can guarantee you on Thursday night it won't be very friendly. It'll be very competitive.
It'll be a good rivalry game for over there. You know, just for fans that maybe haven't gotten tickets or might want to go, you know, tell me a little bit about the two teams and how good this game will be, other than just the pure rivalry that's going on between them.
Well, it's unique, you know, coming to Houston for a start of the International Champions Cup, but it's the first Manchester City-Manchester United game outside the UK. So it's a bit of history coming. Obviously, the Houston fans love their sports. For me, it's two of the best managers, coaches in the world, in Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, and the players that are going to be on show. You know, usually this time of year, because there's World Cups, there's European Championships internationally, the teams can't bring their best players because they're usually playing for the national team. But Sergio Aguero, Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva for Manchester City, Lukaku, new signing for Manchester United, all the big names are going to be here, and it's just going to be a fantastic occasion.
Well, before I let you go, how's Houston treating everyone?
Absolutely fantastic. You know, I was lucky enough to come here 6 weeks ago for the launch of the game, and to be back here now, people are fantastic, great city.
You don't know a lot about baseball. You admitted to it, but enjoy the game today. If you have any questions, just ask.
I will do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I say that, but I don't know anything about soccer like he does, so it's fair here. We're having a little fun, guys.
All right, Julia, thank you very much. That's pretty cool. That is cool that Man U and Manchester City, first time playing each other outside of the UK, and it happens right here in H-Town.
Man, you know your soccer.
Oh, I was listening to Paul. I don't know that. I'm just repeating what he said. Well, 2-1 the count to Kyle Seager. No, I know it's an entirely popular sport that is seemingly, especially with younger fans, growing in popularity by the bunches. We were just in Atlanta right before the All-Star break, and they're selling out every soccer match down there.
Well, they expanded out there in Atlanta. It's an expansion team for them, and they are doing extremely well. I know that every time we go through Seattle,
yep,
we hear about their soccer team up there, which I cannot recall their name. Sounders.
Yep.
Seattle Sounders. They do a great job out there.
Portland's got a big
rivalry.
rivalry.
We know who the real celebrity is in this crowd.
Yeah, if we're in England, Paul would be getting a lot of attention. We're in H-Town. This is Julia's house.
Yes.
There she goes, off to her next story. 3-2 pitch to Seager. Yuli didn't have to go as far for this one. For whatever reason, on the ground ball to Altuve. Prior to that, Yuli went all the way to his right, and Jose looked at him like, I'm here. I play second base.
When you have Kelly Leak on your side of the field, you don't have to range that much.
That is a good-natured ribbing with those guys. Now they'll shift on the other side a little bit with Danny Valencia, the hitter. Valencia coming in with a .271 batting average. He has faced Charlie Morton prior. He's 0 for 6 with 4 strikeouts. Astros and Mariners just underway. Foul tip, 0-1. Seattle is in a very interesting spot. They play today to wrap up their road trip. Day off tomorrow. Then they welcome in the Yankees and the Red Sox. Short ground ball to short. Marwin over there for the second straight day makes the play. And that'll do it. 3 ground ball outs in the second after 3 flyouts in the first.
take a look at our Chevy Straw poll. Remember to follow us on Twitter at ATT Sportsnet SW. All right, how many dollar dogs are appropriate for a person to consume during an Astros game? This is our real Chevy Straw poll today. 1, 2, 3, 4, or more. Guys, do you have a...
Well, there's somebody testing it right there.
I'm going to guess the winner. It's got to be 4 or more, right? And appropriate is relative because each person has a different level.
Well, why are you here on Dollar Dog Day? You're here to eat some hot dogs. Load up.
Evan hit one out right after our hot dog promo last night.
See your mind at work right there, trying to entice Evan Gaddis to hit another one.
I mean, I've got to think one's the loser. You're not going to dollar dog night for one.
It's a waste of $1. At least throw a 5 spot at him and get 5 dogs, right?
Unless the one was like the boomstick size, like they have in Texas. Sharply hit, but at the third baseman. Kyle Seager makes the play. And just like Charlie Morton, so far so good for James Paxton. He has retired the first 4. So Julia, you tackled the boomstick on a previous broadcast. What would your appropriate number of hot dogs on a dollar dog day be?
If it was regular hot dogs?
Yeah, regular, like here.
Just a couple.
2.
2. I don't put a lot of extra on my hot dog. I'm just kind of a mustard girl. But if it's a boomstick,
yeah, there's some serious additions to
can't have
that.
multiple.
No. I would like to meet the person who had more than one of those, if there is one that's living.
Yeah, before they eat it.
1-1 the count on the left fielder. Yes, we said the left fielder, Carlos Beltran, already made 2 plays out there. Fouls one down the line. Carlos has reached in 9 straight games. Hit his first right-hand home run.
Found it.
Brian McCann, who led the funeral procession, has found his glove. That's pretty impressive. Although Beltran goes down swinging in his first AB. 2 strikeouts on the game for Paxton. Second out in the second inning. Here's Marwin Gonzalez. I'm going to ask every once in a while, why isn't Marwin amongst the league leaders? And the simple answer is he has not been to the plate enough to qualify for the league leaders. Had he been to the plate enough, he'd be 4th in on-base percentage and 4th in slugging. Team leading 966 OPS. He is closing in on that number. As he sends one into right field, pretty well hit. Gamble back, and it's over his head and off the wall. Marwin on the first pitch he sees doubles into right field, and the Astros now have the 2nd longest streak of consecutive games with a double in Major League Baseball history.
Good piece of hitting by Marwin going the other way. We're going to take a look at the pitch location on our MD Anderson strike zone. Zunino set away. Pitch is away. Marwin up to the challenge, drops the barrel on it, going with that pitch. Turns out he got Ben Gamble to do a couple of jumping jacks. So they are all by themselves.
Wave goodbye to the 99 Braves. And now they set their sights on the 96 Indians. They still need almost another month to catch them. That's a long way to go. Here's Brian McCann. Though Marwin right now is 13 plate appearances shy of qualifying. And what that means is you need 3.1 plate appearances per number of games your team has played. So Marwin's got a chance to catch up. It'll just take another couple of weeks. But his numbers are ridiculously good this year. Here's Brian McCann. Down and in. It's 1-1. McCann carries a slugging percentage of .508 against lefties this year and has hit 5 of his 11 home runs against left-handed pitchers. Paxton hasn't allowed a home run this month. Swing and a miss. It's 1-2.
And that month of June was a little bit different. After coming off that DL stint that he had with that left forearm, gave up 5 bombs in June. That ERA was at 7.20, but he's turned things around here in July.
Zunino wants this ball down. Instead, it's up a little bit and fouled off. Can stays alive. On the ground, gloved by Valencia. He'll trot to the bag himself and retire McCann for the final out of the inning. Lamar with a double, and that's it. Minute Maid Park with a customized brick that will welcome fans into the ballpark for seasons to come. Order your commemorative brick now at astros.com/bricks. We move to the third inning. Dollar Dog Day. It's a dog day afternoon here at Minute Maid Park. Astros and Mariners scoreless. That's impressive. That's one dog in one hand and the other being devoured in the other hand.
Whole new meaning to Crush City.
They are crushing some dollar dogs. Here is Gerard Dyson to lead things off in the third. Takes a fastball outside from Charlie Morton, 1-0. Morton, who's normally a guy that induces a lot of ground balls, gave up 3 fly balls in the first inning, and then he got 3 ground outs in the second inning. Part of the thinking for A.J. Hinch, ground ball guy. Good day to have Carlos Beltran in the outfield, but Beltran's already made 2 putouts as Jose Altuve makes the play for the first out of the third.
We've got an opportunity to look at our pitch usage. It's going to be presented by AT&T with Charlie Morton out there. You see the fastball, curveball, cutter, and changeup. Top 2 are the bread and butter for Charlie Morton with the 55% usage of that fastball at 95 miles an hour consistently. Opponent's hitting 266 again at that. Curveball's been quite effective. Punch outs have gone up for Charlie Morton, but the batting average against him has gone down.
Zunino with a foul ball and may have caught a piece of the home plate umpire. Crew chief Kerwin Danley behind the plate today.
Charlie's another one of those guys. We talked about Brad Peacock, and the scouting report on him has got to be vastly different than it has been in the past. Charlie Morton, usually a sinker, slider, changeup, curveball type guy, working the edges of the plate. Now he's pumping 95 and turned into a strikeout type pitcher.
I think the only team that will be ready for him is the team he'll pitch against next, because the Phillies saw that velocity last year. That's where he found it. For some reason, he was around 92 his whole career, and then boom, 94, 95, and this year 95, 96. That's a pretty pitch. Inner half at the knees, and Eno doesn't like it, but that's close enough with 2 strikes, and that's a strikeout for Morton, his first.
He doesn't have to like it, but that is a pitcher's pitch. The guy throws 95 miles an hour. This one's at 93 on that inside corner, but that is perfectly spotted. Sometimes you just have to tip your cap.
Here's Guillermo Heredia, number 9 hitter. Mentioned the Astros haven't seen Mitch Haniger in this series. Haniger, they thought, might be back today. He's been out with a right index finger injury. So Heredia has played all 3 games in the outfield in this series. 1-1 the count to Heredia. Morton falling behind for one of the rare times today. It's 3-1. On the hands is 3-2. Morton will throw a lot of pitches, at least this season. He's been averaging 16.7 pitches per inning. That's the highest of his career since the 2010 season. Today he's off to a good start. Threw 13 in the first inning, 11 in the second inning. And if he gets through this inning with one more pitch, it'll be 11 again in the third. Shattered bat. The barrel goes over the dugout. Altuve calls off Correa on Yuli. For some reason does not see Jose Altuve today. Almost ran the second baseman over. So Altuve stayed with it for the final out. And Morton has another 1-2-3 innings.
Celebrating Jeff Bagwell's election into the Hall of Fame all season long. A special 5-game ticket package includes tickets to the Hall of Fame weekend in August and access to exclusive baggy-themed giveaways. Visit Astros.com/mini-plans for more information. As we look back on Jeff Bagwell's cycle, Minute Maid Park. Love the replay on that because he can smell that triple and put his head down and got it. There's Jeff celebrating like nobody's ever celebrated before.
Bottom half of the third inning, Alex Bregman with a line drive, base hit into right field. He will make the turn, but hold up at first with a single. Blummer, we're approaching quickly Hall of Fame weekend.
Yes.
It's going to happen while we're on this next road trip. A lot of people will be heading up to Cooperstown.
They should.
I know Gene Diaz will be on part of the trip, and then after the Philadelphia series, he'll be heading up to Cooperstown because it will be sooner than you know it that Bagwell will be inducted in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. The production crew here at Minute Maid Park is putting together some highlights, some interviews. I had a chance to go up there and talk a little bit about Jeff Bagwell, being his teammate, and the appreciation I have for him and everything he's done for the game. It's truly an honor. And what's great about it is that Baggy is so humbled by the honor.
Backhand play by Paxton. The throw is a little low. Valencia hung in there, but Resnick thought about a bunt hit. He may end up with a sacrifice out of it, as he will move Bregman to second.
This is a smart move, not only individually, but as a team. If Jake gets on, you've got first and second. If he doesn't, he's moved the runner to second base. Look at the backhand flip from Paxton on our Super Mo, brought to you by Mattress Firm. Pretty good pick by Valencia. These are things you need to do against a guy like Paxton. Just try and create an opportunity to drive in runs.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think if it's a different game with different pitchers, you may not want to burn it out, but this has the making early on of being one of those games where runs could be precious.
The Astros know it all too well against James Paxton.
They've not yet scored against him this season. Now into their 16th inning in his third start against Houston this year. Big swing from Springer. Down to the count 0-1. George has 65 runs batted in on the year. Chases the breaking ball, and it's 0-2. Paxton throws that big curveball, and he's really been effective lately against right-hand hitters with that curve.
Right-hand hitters have had a tough time against him in that month of July. The batting average for right-handed hitters in July is $148.
Slugging percentage just .204 this month. On the move, Bregman. The throw is not in time. Alex Bregman picking the right pitch to steal a base. He's in there for the 9th time this year with a stolen base.
And we talked all year long about Carlos Beltran being able to teach these guys how to pick signs from the catcher at second base. Sometimes you use that to relay the pitch to the hitter, but sometimes you can also use it to do what Todd is talking about, pick a good pitch to run on. In a 2-strike count, he saw off speed maybe being put down. Great time to run. Put a little pressure on that defense with 2 strikes. Now they're going to bring the infield in against George.
That raises the batting average potential for Springer here, even though he's down to the count. He sends one in the air to center field. This will score the game's first run. Dyson is back. He won't even attempt to make a throw home as Alex Bregman scores on the sac fly by George Springer.
You know what is so great about this inning is the sequence that we're seeing. The bottom part of the order doing a good job of getting on base with Alex Bregman with the knock. Jake Marisnick with the sac bunt, and then you get the sac fly after the stolen base from Alex Bregman. So we've seen the Astros put up prodigious numbers offensively, but what I've been impressed with, that final game against the Minnesota Twins, creating runs with their legs. Here they actually manufacture a run against a guy that's been extremely tough against them.
That's your classic small ball run. Single, bunt him over to second, steal a base, sacrifice fly home. Here's Jose Altuve. Springer now up to 66 runs batted in. That's 4th in the American League. He's 4th in the AL in runs batted in. Batting in the leadoff spot.
He's going to overtake that lead on the team with Carlos Correa on the shelf.
Carlos has him by just 1 now. Carlos and Aaron Judge are tied with 67 runs batted in for 2nd in the AL. DH for the Mariners, Nelson Cruz leads the way with 74. Astros on top of Paxton, 1-0, finally scoring a run against this left-hander for the first time this year. And it took great execution all the way around in this inning to get that run across. Altuve, who struck out his first time, staying alive 1-2. Love Altuve's attitude. When Gurriel came over on that pop-up at the end of the inning, he just looked at him and started laughing.
You know why? He's adorable.
Fouls going back.
But he did kind of have that look on his face like, Poppy, I've been here all year.
Have you not seen me?
Yeah, we've been on the right side of the infield all year long together.
Yuli may have had an extra cup of coffee today.
Over Boogie.
He's ready to play every position.
Talked about picking up the slack, but that's taking it to the next level.
Not sure how he did it, but somehow Altuve stayed alive on that pitch. Lots of relish on that dog.
It's getting it done, making it happen. He's got one on deck. I think Sister's holding it for him.
Dollar Dog Day. Most of the time it's night games with a special National Hot Dog Day promotion.
I'm glad we reinforced that fact.
2-2 the count. Astros will head on the road for a while. Next time they are home will be a very, very interesting day because that will be the trade deadline. They are home on July 31st. Ground ball towards the hole. Seager cuts it off with Altuve's speed. He has to make a great play and just not in time as Altuve beats it on the throw by Seager. Infield hit for Altuve. Hit number 126 on the year. Seager did everything he could.
No, that was a valiant effort by Seager down there at third base. Altuve fighting in this at-bat, puts it in play, just the right spot. Hustling through the bag as you watch Kyle Seager try and make that Ken Caminiti-ish type play from his pants. You gotta get your core exercises in to pull that off.
Now Yuli Gurriel will bat. Foul one back. If you're wondering why Altuve is so good and leads the American League by 13 hits coming into this game, that was a classic Altuve at bat. Got down 1-2. He fouled off pitches that really most guys are making outs on, if not striking out. And then he gets the count to 2-2 and just puts the ball in play and uses his speed to get on.
Speed don't slow.
He was dead in that at bat on numerous occasions against a very good pitcher. And survived and ended up with a base hit. Count as 1-1 on Gurriel. Altuve doesn't see his pickoff move very well, so I don't know if he's going to go. He actually was heading back to the bag on the first delivery.
I'm going to look at our Ford spray chart right now because we're talking about Altuve extends that hitting streak to 12 games now. You see where that spray chart is. Up the middle, the pull side quite a bit. A lot of off speed being pulled to that left side, but he'll go the other way when he needs to. And one of those hits is actually a home run into the Astros bullpen in right center field against the Minnesota Twins.
12-game hitting streak for Altuve. 26 for 52 during the 12-game hitting streak.
That's beyond adorable.
That is something you don't see happen often. 26 hits in a 12-game stretch, and he still has 6 innings to go today.
We talked about all those 3-hit games that he has since 2011, 118 coming into this game, and why not? 12-game hitting streak, 26 hits. Makes sense.
Good to see him getting his hits here at home because that wasn't always the case earlier this year.
It's actually a great point. It's been a little bit different here in recent homestands where he's turned it around a little bit, looks a little more comfortable.
Altuve was on the move on the 1-2 pitch. Gurriel may have left his zone a little bit. Fouls it back to the screen. It's 1-2. Jose leads the team in steals with 19.
It's one way to recover to a good seat. Got a good friend going the hot dog runs too.
Altuve on the move again. This pitch is low. Zunino's throw is in time. Tagged right on the head by Robinson Cano. And that's frustrating for Altuve as he is thrown out to end the inning. 1-0 Astros. as we head to the 4th inning. Carlos Correa underwent successful surgery today and sent a message out to his fans on Instagram. So thank you everybody for your thoughts and prayers. God has a plan, and he said he hopes to be back soon. And by soon we mean before the playoff run or the playoff postseason in October. Line drive is the first hit of the game for Gene Segura. Six to 8 weeks for Correa. And when Mike Trout had that same injury, it was 7 weeks and 3 days from the surgery. So if you do the math, start today and go out 7 weeks and 3 days, that'll put him somewhere right around the middle of September.
Be a good time, get a couple of weeks of regular season ABs before the potential postseason ABs that are going to be quite crucial. Knowing Carlos, though, he'll probably be in the cage tomorrow doing one-hand drills with the top hand.
Said God has a plan for everything, with prayer emoji. Successful surgery, now ready for what's next. Hashtag the grind never stops, and hashtag go Astros. We look forward to seeing Carlos back in his recovery, getting ready to come back to the team in September. Wish him the best in that recovery. Segura on first base, and Gamble sends one deep to right field, and this ball is out in a hurry. Mariners take a 2-1 lead on Ben Gamble's 5th home run of the year.
Sure if that was a cutter or the slider, but it came right back into the swing of Ben Gamble. I think that was a cutter at 87 miles an hour.
So after Morton retired the first 9 he faced, a single and a home run, giving the Mariners a 2-1 lead. Here's Robinson Cano. Cano takes a strike.
10th home run Charlie's given up this year.
Cano flied out to center field his first time up. Thing we have seen from Morton this season, although it's been a little bit better lately since coming back from the DL. But first time through the lineup, the numbers are incredibly good. Second time, offense catches up a little bit, and that third time has been a struggle. First time through the lineup, Seattle is 0 for 9, and so far second time through, they're 2 for 2, including that home run by Gamble. Foul tip in and out of the glove of McCann. It stays 1-2. Cano, an 8-time All-Star. This year he won the Most Valuable Player award in the All-Star game. His home run giving the American League a 2-1 victory down in Miami. It's not chased there. It's 2-2. Mariners will return home after this game. I mentioned they have the Yankees and the Red Sox. They should really have a pretty good idea of where things stand after those two series. Altuve will make the play to Correa. Terry DePoto is a guy who has made more trades than anybody else in baseball since the end of the 2015 season, and it's not even close. He's got some decisions to make because they do not have an easy road in August. They are on the road in August, basically.
Yeah, he would like to have a better idea before they go on that road trip. The entire month of August, it seems like. But you're right in the sense that Jerry is not afraid to go out there and make some moves. The roster transactions and the trades, his phone plan must be pretty excessive or unlimited.
Swing and a miss from Nelson Cruz, who grounded out his first time up.
Jerry's actually here. I had a chance to talk to him. He was the general manager when I was playing with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we had a good conversation. He had very nice things to say about what the Astros are doing, and I was very complimentary about how he's put together his rotation. He was telling me how he was surprised that Miranda's pitching so well, but also Gaviglio, who pitched last night, even though he ended up with the loss, he was pretty impressed with how he's gone out there and gone about his business.
Well, this is an offense that you would think has playoff potential. And it's always been, at least going a couple years back, it's always been for Seattle, the pitching has been carrying them. This year they don't necessarily, and a lot of it's injury related, don't necessarily have that consistent starting five. The bullpen's been better lately. But if they are going to make a run at this, you would think they're looking maybe for an arm to improve the rotation.
Well, I was just say they might be in a similar situation as the Astros as far as, you know, they could add a starting pitcher. They could add more bullpen depth. I'm kind of curious to see how this bullpen recovers from this abuse out of the All-Star break. Should be interesting. But yeah, there's some interesting times to be had ahead. And again, that wild card, even though they're 15.5 games out of first place in the American League West, they're still in contention for the wild card.
Morton gets Cruz swinging. Second strikeout of the game for Charlie. 2 outs in the fourth.
Good curveball. Now keep in mind, right here to right here, that's the only time they're home.
I think he even gave him a couple extra ones because those A's
oh,
games
that's
are on
right.
the road.
My bad.
Yeah.
So we're going to take it even further over here. And think about the flight from Baltimore to Tampa, or from Seattle to Tampa Bay. They're going to have to stop and refuel.
And there's another series after that Yankee series that's still on the road.
We couldn't even fit that entire road trip on the screen. It was so long.
They have 3-city road trip, home for 7, then 4-city road trip.
4 city trips are unheard of.
With 2 off days.
Yeah.
They will be home for 1 measly week in the month of August.
I mean, it's one thing to test yourself against good competition. It's another thing to go to the East Coast and leave the comfort of Safeco Field in the middle of the summer. That's unfair. They should make that road trip some other time, like April or September, when it starts to get chilly and cold.
Yeah, you're right. That's a beautiful time to be in Seattle. They have not made the postseason since 2001. 15-year drought is the longest in Major League Baseball. Currently, the Marlins are next with a 13-year drought. Well, they're itching for a winner right now in Seattle, and it's hard to continue to say, well, look at next year.
Yeah.
And I think that's, even though they're 16.5 back to start the day in the AL West, I think the fact that they're in that wild card picture may have Jerry Dipoto looking to add pieces at the deadline as Seager pops up to end the inning. We head to the bottom of the fourth. 2-run home run has Seattle on top. Two lead lead the Astros. We head to the bottom half of the fourth inning. Astros able to manufacture a run against James Paxton in the bottom half of the third inning. Seattle came back with 2 in the top half of the fourth on a Ben Gamel home run.
That'd be a good thing to be celebrating at home.
That's a loaded hot dog or two for 3.
It's getting it done.
Yuli Gurriel takes the ball. Yuli was the batter when Jose Altuve was caught stealing for the 5th time this season. That ended the third inning. Gurriel was behind in the count at the time of the pitch. He was down the count 1-2. House went out of play. Here's Altuve getting a little snack. I don't think it's a dollar dog.
Those aren't recommended during the game.
That would not help your stolen base percentage. Outside, 2-1. Yuli flied out to right his first time up. Yuli's got that average hovering just below 300. We got there briefly. Now 294. Inside is 3-1. Not many Astros have good numbers against this left-hander, James Paxton. Really fouls one back. Really amongst those guys who have struggled against Paxton, just 1 for 10. He draws a walk there. So a leadoff walk to Yuli Gurriel to start the bottom of the fourth.
Do you realize what just happened?
Yuli walked.
Do you realize how often he walks? 2% of the time.
That's how I like my milk. It happens very rarely.
Oh. I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket.
And that is on the season, walk number 8 in 313 at bats.
Well, the good thing is, too, he doesn't punch out a lot. But the fact that he walked is astonishing.
Leadoff hitter. He's in the 3 spot now. It's a new mindset.
Oh.
Here's Evan Gattis. Gattis is aggressive with that first hack. Fouling one back. Evan with 2 home runs yesterday and almost hit one out prior to his 2nd home run. Evan's on a nice home run roll. 5 home runs in his last 7 games.
This will be an opportunity maybe for him to sneak into the lineup a couple more times. Carlos Correa on the DL.
That will be interesting to see how A.J. Hinch plays out that lineup card. He's got interleague baseball in the middle of that next road trip. National League rules.
I just thought it was interesting how this series set up with the catching situation. McCann, being a left-handed hitter, has started both games against the left-hander. Evan Gattis started yesterday against the right-hander Sam Gaviglio.
And it worked out well. Evan with a 2-1 count. Paxton didn't walk anybody in his last start. Walking Gurriel here. And behind in the count, 2-1 to Evan. Foul back, it's 2-2. Well, the thing about James Paxton is he is a very talented pitcher, but it always came with the caveat of if he could stay healthy. He has never been able to really last an entire season staying in that rotation every 5 days. Last year was the closest, but still went on the DL with a left elbow contusion. And he gets Gattis there on the breaking ball. 3rd strikeout for Paxton, 1 out in the 4th. MLB.TV Premium is back and better than ever with great picture quality and a free at-bat premium subscription so you can watch every out-of-town regular season game live on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Here's Carlos Beltran. He was a strikeout victim his first time up. Line drive caught by Cano. Gurriel gets back. So he's not doubled up, but Beltran hits it well, but at the Mariners second baseman for out number 2. Here's Marwin Gonzalez. Doubled on the first pitch he saw with 2 outs in the second inning. Extending that Astros streak to 51 consecutive games with a double. Make that 52 consecutive games with a double. Paxton ahead 0-1. That's what makes Paxton so good. He's able to throw that curveball into the zone for a strike to start the at bat. He's also able to get you to chase out of the zone when he's ahead of the count with that same curveball. There's another good one. It's 0-2. This does not look like a strike from a right-hand hitter. Next thing you know, you're down in the count 0-2.
That you're constantly thinking about 96 miles an hour. Also, that's what makes it tough. But he's able to flip the get me overs. But like you said, when he gets to 2 strikes, he can throw that power curveball, get the swing and miss.
Marwin lays off that one. It's 1-2. Called third strike. Gonzalez goes down looking. 4 strikeouts for Paxton, 2 in the inning.
Going on in the Houston area, also the Southland Conference media days, I should say, are happening. You guys making your way into town. I'm with Jeremiah Briscoe, who's the quarterback for Sam Houston State. Welcome to the game. You're a Houston native, so you're right in where you feel like you belong, I assume. Huge Astros fan growing up?
Absolutely. I have been my entire life, back since going to games at the Astrodome. So I love it. I mean, the way they're playing right now is awesome. It's great for our city, and I love it.
Well, a big season for you coming up, going into your senior year. Give us a little preview on what we can expect from the Bearcats this year.
I mean, we're planning to build on what we've done the last few years. I mean, our goal has been to win a national championship, and we've been very close to that in the semifinals and quarterfinals. Offensively, we're returning almost everybody. Defensively, we'll be much better schematically and everything. So I mean, it's shaping up to look like it's gonna be a great year. So
we look forward to seeing what you guys can do this year. Who did you bring with you? Because they've all got their camera phones out. I'm imagining they're going to mess with you a little bit. But who's with you today? It's not just your team. There's some other teams involved too.
Every team from our conference is here with their head coach and 2 players. I'm here with one of our DNs, PJ Hall, and our defensive line coach, Sadiq Haynes. But it's all a great time. I mean, everybody's here. It's a good time to get together before not really friends later on.
Exactly. One last question about these Houston Astros, because you said you were a big fan. You also said you played a little baseball. What's so exciting about this 2017 club?
I mean, it's just awesome the way that how many young guys we've had, the way they've all come together with the vets. I mean, it's just, we're a scrappy team. I mean, it's awesome. I love it. I mean, I love all the offense. It's just great. Our front end pitching's been awesome, so I love watching it.
Well, good luck this year. I've heard that NFL scouts will have their eye on you as well. So good luck with everything in the future. Enjoy the rest of the game.
Thank you so much.
That's Jeremiah Briscoe. Look for him in the Bearcats this year, guys.
All right, Julia, Jeremiah, thank you very much. 1-2 the count on Danny Valencia. And he goes down swinging on a fastball down and in. Valencia looking back at Charlie Morton and tipping his cap in appreciation on the third strikeout of the game. Football season's not that far away.
No, it's not.
These guys are enjoying maybe dollar dogs for the last time this year until they're in training camp.
Load up while you can, boys. You know, those 2 days and all that training camps in this heat has got to be fun.
Julia said there were a couple of players from each conference or from each team in the conference on hand. I wonder if there's any offensive linemen here.
Yeah, watch out.
Dollar dogs.
Ooh.
Could be some damage.
Some friendly competition.
Gerard Dyson, the batter. 1 out, nobody on. We're in the 5th. 2-1 Mariners lead. They only have 2 hits, but they came in succession. Single by Segura, home run by Gamble. And Charlie Morton's retired everybody else today. Ahead 0-2 on Gerard Dyson. Couple of finals in the National League today. Just one other game going on in the American League right now, and that is in Minnesota, where the Twins lead the Yankees 6-0. Yankees making a big trade last night after our game was over, kind of towards the end of our game. They made a big move, getting 2 relievers and a first and third baseman in Todd Frazier. Frazier and Tommy Kahnle and David Robertson returning back to the Yankees.
They made some noise with that trade.
There's the deal. Tyler Clippard, part of that deal to kind of offset the cost of all those guys coming over to New York, and also a lot of prospects, including their #1 pick from last year. It's becoming apparent with the Cubs acquiring Quintana, with the Diamondbacks acquiring J.D. Martinez, with this trade, with the Nationals acquiring Doolittle and Madsen from Oakland, that if you stand still, you are not staying with the competition, because there's a lot of teams that are looking at the postseason that are making moves right now, and we're not even within that final week leading into the trade deadline.
Yeah, I would imagine every GM that is in a position to go out there and make a deal is going to be sitting on their phone. I mean, you don't turn that thing off, because you've got to keep up to date on all the transactions that are going on, or potential transactions, and see if you can go in there and snag a guy, because it does seem like if you wait a couple of minutes, that guy that you want is going to end up somewhere else.
Altuve to Gurriel. Dyson retired for the second out. Not sure if I remember the activity being this heavy 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to the deadline. We're now within a week and a half or so.
Now, do you feel that the reason for that is because there are teams that really feel that they have a potential to make a push deeper into the postseason, so they're a little more aggressive to go make sure they go get those guys?
I think that's a part of it. I think when the Cubs made a move at the All-Star break, or coming out of the All-Star break, that kind of leads other teams to say, all right, that's the first shoe that dropped.
Yeah, they're always waiting for that first one to be had, and then they panic and say, I got to go get my guy now.
And then if you're the case of the Cubs, you get Quintana right at the All-Star break. That gives you a few extra starts as opposed to waiting till the deadline with him in your rotation. But it will be a very, very interesting next 11 days. Week from Monday will be the trade deadline, 3 o'clock Central Time, when the Astros are back home taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. 1-1 the count to Mike Zunino, 2 outs and nobody on. The Rays are finding themselves right now in a playoff hunt. They're currently the first wild card team in the American League, and they're only a couple of games back of Boston in the AL East. Right now, the Yankees would be the second wild card, and Minnesota right behind them. Pitch there. Zunino swings on top of it. It's 2-2. AL East bunching up a little bit. Boston right now has the second best record in the American League. And they are a full 10.5 games behind the Astros for the best record in the AL. Swing and a miss. Morton with that fastball to get Zunino. 2 strikeouts in the inning, 4 in the game. They're halfway home. It's 2-1 Seattle. Light Blonde Spotlight falls on a couple of guys who had 9 consecutive seasons of 20 or more home runs. Nelson Cruz accomplished that with a home run in this series. On Monday night, Brian McCann already has 9 consecutive seasons. We would look for the longest active streak if he gets 9 more this year. He's sitting at 11 right now. That's pretty impressive. It's about durability and consistency, and Brian McCann has both of those in a catching position.
I say the position's a little bit tougher, working every day behind home plate, I think.
Nelson Cruz mostly sees his time as the DH. McCann with 11 home runs, and we're approaching the 100 game mark. Today is game number 95. Most ever consecutive years with 20 or more home runs as McCann fouls one out of play. Henry Aaron. Hank Aaron had 20 consecutive years with 20 or more home runs. Barry Bonds had 19. McCann is reaching some rare air with double-digit seasons of 20 or more home runs if he gets there this year. A fly ball to center. Gerard Dyson puts it away for out number 1. Astros manufactured their lone run of the game against James Paxton. A single, a bunt, a stolen base, and a sac fly. Alex Bregman had that single and stolen base and run scored. On the inside corner, 0-1. That Bonds had 19 total. He did not have 19 consecutive. Aaron had 20 consecutive, which is remarkable. The next highest consecutive total was Babe Ruth with 16.
These numbers are insane.
20 straight years with 20 more homers. Bonds had
what did you do the last 20 years? Only had 400 home runs.
And the craziest part about Aaron's 714 is that he never hit 50.
That is insane. That's longevity and power. That's incredible to think about.
Fouled back. It's 1-2 on Bregman. Charlie Morton started his career with the Atlanta Braves. 714 is also a number right now that resonates with the Astros, because when they head out on the road beginning Friday, that's their season average for runs per game.
Which is another ridiculous number.
It is. It is. Other than the 30s Yankees teams, the best mark, they're on pace for the best mark in the history of the game, other than some 30s New York Yankees that included guys like DiMaggio and Ruth and Gary. Throw to first by Seager, retires Alex Bregman for the second out.
The Coca-Cola Value Nights package is one of the best ballpark bargains. This offer is available for select Monday through Thursday regular season games and scores a ticket, hot dog, soda, and popcorn for just $18. Visit Astros.com or call 1-877-9-ASTROS.
2 outs, nobody on in a 2-1 game, bottom half of the 5th inning. Here's Jake Marisnick. Jake playing small ball in that first inning with a sac bunt that led to a run. Tried to play long ball there. Foul tip for a strike, 0-1. Jake does have a career high 11 home runs. One and one to count. Curveball, it's 1-2. Paxton's one of those guys, looks like can get in a rhythm. He gets the ball, he takes the sign, and he goes.
Yeah, he's jumping on the mound every time he gets that ball back. He's ready to go.
And he tries to paint the corner. He started to head towards the dugout a little bit, but no call from Kerwin Dan.
I felt the same way you did. It was like, heck of a pitch. Well, a little more than a heck of a pitch.
Jake gets another life, fouls one away. Only 5 total hits in this game, 3 by the Astros, 2 by the Mariners. Jake hanging in there. Trying to keep the inning alive for that guy who has the lone RBI of the day for Houston. But he gets Marisnick swinging. So 5 strikeouts for Paxton. He's through 5 with a 2-1 lead. Houston Astros baseball on AT&T Sportsnet is presented by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Two-one game, 6th inning baseball. Astros wrapping up this homestand back home on July 31st. As Guillermo Heredia will lead things off in the 6th inning. Charlie Morton misses inside for ball 1. Morton starts the inning with 71 pitches so far through 5. Very good for him, just about 14 per inning. His opponent, James Paxton, has thrown 7 more pitches at 78. This ball is ridden well into right center field for a hit. Heredia will have extra bases. He's into second with a double to lead off the 6th. Just the 3rd hit allowed by Charlie. Now we'll have to face the top of the order. Gene Segura, the batter. Segura coming in 2nd in the American League in batting. Hitting at .344. He's 1 for 2 today with a run scored. Last year he led the National League in hits with 203. Saw what he could do defensively. Some brilliant plays on Monday night to keep the game tied and send it to extra innings at 7, and Mariners would win it 9-7. He saved that game 2 or 3 times in the bottom half of the 9th. Outside, it's 2-0.
Interesting to see him squaring around. They're on second base, hitting .345 on the season. Figure he handles the bat well enough to go the other way to move the runner, if not drive him in.
I don't think the Astros are too upset to see him sacrifice here if that's what he elects to do.
Yeah, you get a guy .345 giving you an out. Take it.
This time he's swinging and it's a called strike.
Buckle up. 2-0 curveball.
Get used to seeing this guy. He just signed an extension with the Mariners until 2022.
The Astros would like to try and figure him out quick. Hasn't been good up to this point.
Now he's going to bunt at the 2-1 pitch, and it's 2-2.
They gave up Taijuan Walker to Arizona and Ketel Marte, the shortstop that was playing here in Seattle previously, to get Gene Segura. Felt like giving up Taijuan Walker was a big give up, but it turns out Gene Segura's worked in nicely at shortstop, like you said, with the bat and the glove.
Shattered bat. Gurriel boggles. Morton can't find the bag. Everybody's safe. Timing was off a little bit. Gurriel with the bobble, and Charlie was looking for the bag and may have cost himself a step. And Segura beat the play.
Interesting to see how they rule this. A good pitch by Charlie Morton off the end of the bat, but the bobble by Yuli and the glance at the bag by Charlie Morton. You can see Yuli's head came up a little bit. He was looking to flip that ball before he got it. Led to the bobble. Wow, that was a lot closer than I thought.
AJ's going to have them look at it.
Well, it was interesting because you see Gene Segura go in there. He dove, yes, but he didn't hit the front part of the bag. He hit the back part.
AJ is going to have Kerwin Danley, the crew chief, and Todd Titchener, the first base umpire who made the call, look at this with New York.
You look at it. There might be an argument from that angle.
It's kind of an awkward play all the way around.
It really was. And I just think with Segura going to the back part of the bag, I'm not sure if he lost track of where he was or trying to protect the hand.
I am saying we've been pretty good at it this year. Well, I think the only one we missed was when Reed Ryan was in the booth with us.
Of course, no pressure.
I'm saying there's going to be a freeze frame that they can blow up that shows Morton's foot on the bag before Segura's hand.
I like it.
That's my guess. Hey, you would not do well in MLB replay center in New York because the verb look happens all the time.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Come here and look at this. No, you look at it.
No, I'm trying to have you look at it. It would be like an Abbott and Costello routine if you were in the MLB replay center.
Yeah, it might lead to some fights, but it'd be worth it. Can you imagine Joe West asking me to come look at something and I tell him to look at it? That'd be great.
Oh, I got one wrong. I didn't have enough to overturn it.
That was relatively quick.
AJ doesn't agree. I don't agree.
I don't agree either. I thought that was a heck of a lot closer than the response we got.
Well, that's a play that should have been made. They're going to give Yuli an error on that play. Yuli's had a couple of issues on some ground balls over there on the right side. That glove is so big, and he's never played a lot of first base before this year.
He's kind of streaky with it, too, I feel like. I feel like there's moments where you say, wow, Yuli's really made the adjustment nicely, and then we'll go see a 6-game stretch where we just wonder if he's ever played there before.
Segura steals second rather easily, putting 2 runners in scoring position. I thought there might be enough to overturn that, but apparently they could not determine. I've got to think the call stands. I don't think there's any way they could confirm that. 1-0 the count to Ben Gamble. Gamble's the difference in this game, hitting a 2-run home run his last time up.
So the infield kind of playing in that 3 position, I like to call it, just behind that base path, and the initial play is to home plate. That's their intent, but they're also trying not to give up all their range in the infield by playing all the way in.
With second and third, you probably anticipate the contact play on, which means both runners will be moving on contact. If you do make the play at home, you still have a runner heading to third base. Pitches away, and now Charlie Morton flirting with some disaster. 3-1 count to Ben Gamble, and Cano and Cruz are waiting as the next 2 hitters. Off double by Heredia, a ground ball that turned into an error, and then a stolen base. Chop towards Gurriel. They are holding. Gurriel's going to flip to Morton. He is not on the bag. Second straight foul up on a ground ball between Gurriel and Morton. This time Charlie just simply never got to the bag.
This is the best team in the American League, and we've seen some defensive issues on that right-hand side. You had both. It was interesting because Jose Altuve is playing in that glorified in position, so he was over. He could have gotten over there to cover that bag too, but just indecisive plays over there at first base are just proving to be the demise of some of these innings for the Houston Astros. These are outs they're giving to other ball clubs.
We told you yesterday, almost 20% of the errors committed by the Astros this year are on the pitching staff, and that's one where Charlie didn't get there.
Yeah, Charlie's got to commit one way or the other also. His hesitation doesn't help Yuli.
They gave that error to Gurriel.
That's a tough one. I mean, it was a bad flip, but the bad flip was induced by the fact he didn't know who to give it to.
I don't even think it was a bad flip. Here's Cano, bases loaded. It was right at Charlie Morton.
Yeah, he boxed it.
I think that's got to be changed for the pitcher. I mean, this flip is right at the pitcher's chest. Or his neck, but that's a play.
No, that's still a catchable ball. That's not a bad flip. That's a bad catch.
And he's not on the bag.
I agree with you, yeah.
0-1 the count to Cano.
It's a tough angle looking back over your left shoulder as a pitcher, but you've made that play. Charlie's been in the league for 10 years. They practiced that in spring training. I know that was ages ago, it feels like, but still a play the championship teams make.
Up the middle, Altuve gloves, gets to Marwin, who barehands it. He'll throw behind the runner at third. A run scores. Runners now on the corners on the RBI fielder's choice off the bat of Robinson Cano. It's 3-1.
Pretty good grab by Marwin. They might be asking about the slide from Ben Gamble.
They don't have a challenge left. But Gamble was not able to touch the bag after this slide. Watch where he ends up. That's not a legal slide. But AJ doesn't have he doesn't have a challenge left.
But can he offer up, hey, why don't you guys look at it? Pardon the fun of saying that.
I'm telling you, you wouldn't do well in that replay center. I mean, the rule is you have to be able to grab the bag with your hand. And Gamble was beyond the bag to the point I'm not sure you could make that decision, but the Astros have no more challenges.
I agree with you.
Here's where I think you shouldn't lose a challenge when the play is not confirmed. If it's just...
I'm just trying to watch the play. That was a great play. He's definitely on the bag, but you see Gamble definitely making an effort to go out and get Marwin Gonzalez.
That's where he ends
up.
Not
an effort to stay on the bag.
And it's where he ends up too. You have to make a direct slide into the bag, and you have to be able to touch the bag at the end of the slide.
The slide rule's stupid.
Cruz takes a pitch outside for a ball, 1-0. I would like to see that if the play stands, which means there's not enough video evidence to overturn it, but we're not sure which way the play went, you shouldn't lose your challenge. I'd say if it's confirmed and you're wrong, all right, now we're wrong.
That's a good point.
Now you lose the challenge.
I think you could take that to the replay board and have them argue that. That's not a bad idea.
Because they're really...
If it's not overturned, if it's confirmed, hey,
yeah,
you lose it. But if there's no way to overturn it, then hey, it's a wash.
It's a wash. It's like a tie.
Yeah.
We couldn't tell one way or the other. You maintain your challenge.
Yeah.
But instead, the Astros lost their challenge, or they may have gotten...
Well, how long before they just absolutely review every double play, potential double play?
We could have a double play here. Bregman to Altuve, and he turns the double play. Morton gets out of a bases loaded, no out situation, and ends up giving up just one run.
Astros, it's bottom of the sixth. It's also National Hot Dog Day. Worldwide, right? Maybe.
Already
so,
soiled by
guys,
napkin.
I found some hot dogs.
Yes. You managed to
only
grab
$1.
those away
I
from
spent a lot
fans.
of money on you guys
You
today.
went all out, didn't you?
And I wasn't sure how you liked your hot dogs, so I gave you some options. But will you
Those
save
are good
me one?
options.
There's two
Give me one.
options.
I like how
Either
there's
mustard and ketchup or mustard and relish.
Right. Which one are you going for?
I was hoping for just mustard. Line drive single to right. I thought you were.
Picky.
Oh, you want
I'm
just
leaving.
mustard? Hold on, let me take care of this.
No, don't leave. Don't leave. I thought you liked just mustard on the hot dog.
I do.
So you didn't even prepare one the way you like it.
I kind of want this mustard and relish one. Or at least one of them. I don't need both.
I'll go mustard and relish. I can do that. Ketchup on a hot dog to me. You like ketchup on the hot dog?
I'm indiscriminate
Whatever
when it comes
hot-
to crushing dogs, man.
Right? Got picky eaters up here.
No.
I bring gifts.
I am. Yeah, I'm a little picky.
Happy
Thank
National
you, Julia.
Hot Dog Day.
On a silver platter, too.
Yeah, that's even better. Such service and delivery.
Jose Altuve batting after the leadoff base hit by George Springer. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
Welcome.
Were there, by the way, while we have Julia here, were there a lot of big dudes there? You said a lot of football players were on hand.
Yeah, they were much larger than me.
So they were taking care of some.
Yeah, they were actually, there was a line just outside of their section. It was a dollar dog location.
Pop up, shallow center.
Anyway, they were all out there chowing down.
And that's on the college budget.
Right.
Dollar dogs.
Not sure if it's on the diet.
Yeah, that's
Their nutritionist was not in attendance. They didn't invite him.
Thank you very much. Dollar dogs and baseball. Sixth inning, Astros trailing 3-1. Yuli Gurriel, the batter. Yuli was charged with 2 errors in the top half of this inning. I've got to think one of them gets changed to Morton's error, but either way, Astros not playing very good defense in that inning and allowing the 3rd run of the game. Yuli hits one towards center field. Dyson on the move, and he will make the play. Springer will have to retreat back to first. Dyson can cover a lot of ground out there. George gets back. Yuli hit it well, but out number 2.
That was a heck of a play by Gerard Dyson, who started the season in left field. But Jerry DePoto, we talked about all the transactions, put a lot of emphasis on the fact that he wanted his outfield defense to get better. And this is the reason why right here. Yuli smokes this ball, but Gerard Dyson did a great job. Not the best route, but a very good job of hustling back there to make that play. In a game like this where runs are at a premium, that is a huge play.
Yesterday on the StatCast sprint speed charts, he's 12th in Major League Baseball, one of the fastest players in the game. Evan Gattis, the batter. Leadoff hit by Springer, but so far the Astros have not been able to move him, although Gurriel hit the ball well. Mariners bullpen, which had been taxed, got a breather yesterday. Last night's game, the starter Sam Gaviglio handed the ball over to Emilio Pagan, and that's all they needed in a 6-2 loss. They had a couple of guys who had pitched 4 straight days before last night. Breaking ball for a strike to Gattis, 0-1. Favorite hot dog toppings would be like the spicy mustard and some onions.
I like the onion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I go with.
We had one. I wonder if we can do it again when we go out to Arizona. It might have been the D-back dog or something like that, but it was a corn dog that had jalapeno and cheese with the hot dog in the middle. Wow.
D-back dog. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I checked out. That thing showed up.
Thing you didn't know about it as a player there.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, well, going to Philly, you know, it's funny you bring that up. They make a phenomenal Philly cheesesteak in Philadelphia in the visiting clubhouse. So it is a good thing I didn't know that they actually had that D-back dog. D-back dog. And I was on the DL out there quite a bit. Could have been on the destruction list.
2-1 the count to Evan. Evan looks like a guy that would enjoy a Philly cheesesteak or a D-back dog, depending on on what's in the clubhouse.
No doubt.
2-2 count, 2 outs, bottom half of the 6th inning. Astros with 4 hits, Mariners with 3. Evan last night with his 8th career multi-home run game. AJ likes to reward guys like Gaddis if they have a big game the game before. Not sure if he was in the original plans today or not, but he gets a chance to DH after catching last night. Hits the ball into left field for a base hit. Springer has to hold as the play's right in front of him. The Astros have 2 on with 2 outs. Julia?
Hey, it's our time to play presented by Toyota. We're taking a look at Evan Gaddis. He went yard twice last night, reaching double digits in home runs. If you've watched him over the years, home runs come in bunches for him. That's what AJ said last night. Having a great month. You see the numbers there. 5 homers in just 7 games for him in the month of July. This is one of those stretches where he can do some damage. So Hinch trying to find some more playing time for Gaddis, knowing that this is one of those stretches, guys.
Been hot, hitting the long ball.
You know what, for me, Evan Gaddis, after leading the team in home runs last year with 32, we really have, well, we literally have not heard a peep out of him as far as being unhappy about playing time. And I think that tells you a lot about the character of Evan Gaddis. He wants to go out there and contribute, yes, and he wants to go out there and get his numbers, yes, but at the same time, nary a complaint out of him, considering the situation when they picked up Brian McCann.
Yeah, he's a total team first guy. Whatever the team needs. Obviously, Evan would love to play a little more than he has, but when he's gotten in there, especially recently, he's had a chance to produce, and he has. 1-1 the count to Carlos Beltran. Well, Beltran hit his first right-handed home run of the season the day his glove was buried. Today, the glove has been resurrected.
Can he do it on the day it's come back to life?
It would give the Astros the lead if he does right here. Instead, he's down to the count 1-2.
It's a pretty filthy breaking ball, and again, Paxton pitching with his fastball in the mid-90s and then snaps off a 79-mile-an-hour breaking ball.
And he gets Beltran for the final out of the inning. Paxton picks up strikeout number 6, and we're through 6 in a 3-1 game.
Mariners with the lead, and time to reveal the results of our Chevy Stroh poll today. Thanks for voting. With the Dollar Dogs promotion going on here at Minute Maid Park, we were asking you how many Dollar Dogs are appropriate for a person to consume during an Astros game. 48% going with 4 or more. Nobody really voting for 1. You should never eat just 1 hot dog.
You should be ashamed of yourself if you only eat 1.
Well, that's all I'm having today.
Well, then you're the 1%er.
But you're here every day, though.
Unless this is a longer game, and
You're here every day. I think if you're here just for Dollar Dog Day, like you can come out.
absolutely.
For
No,
Dollar
There's
Dog.
purpose.
You're
Yeah, you're showing up with a reason.
I wonder how the challenge is going out there. They were challenging to how many people could, or how many hot dogs they could eat. There's a group of them.
Somebody tweeted me that they ate 14.
Yeah, there's a
Is that
group that are
possible?
trying to do a hot dog eating contest
Oh, boy.
amongst themselves. I wonder how they're feeling right about now.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we know where the EMTs are?
Best of luck to them.
0-2 the count to Kyle Seager as we start the 7th inning. Charlie Morton right at 90 pitches at this stage. And just missed the corner inside. It's 1-2.
Wow.
That's a pitch that will fool umpires. The catcher set up outside.
Yeah, just the extended reach back across the plate.
Charlie has worked through 7 innings twice this year. Last start in April against the A's, last start in May against the Tigers. Since coming off the DL, he has gone 6 innings in 5 innings. 1-2 the count on Seager. That's a strike. Breaking ball for a call, 3rd strike. Charlie Morton picks up his 5th strikeout, 1 out in 7.
Good pitch all around that zone. May have caught Kyle Seager guessing. Doesn't swing at that breaking ball. Bad spot, but if you can get that hitter thinking a little bit, you can lock him up, keep him from swinging at it.
Here's Danny Valencia. Slowly hit. This is going to be a tough play. Morton bare hand throws and safe. Not sure if Yuli's foot was on the bag. Valencia reaches with 1 out.
Frustrating for Charlie. Makes a good pitch. The swinging bunt from Valencia turns into a knock. Gave it his best effort. Watch the foot that's on the bag for Yuli. And the reason he's chesting up to the inside part of the diamond is to give a better target to the pitcher or the third baseman or the catcher in that sense. Every time that ball's out in front of home plate, you'll see the first baseman usually put that left foot on the bag as opposed to the right where he would anywhere else on a ground ball. And it's purely just to give those guys a target.
It's part of the footwork that Yuli's had to adjust to playing first base. Dyson's grounded out a couple of times, both to Jose Altuve. Can't really double this guy up, though, with his speed unless he hits a bullet right at center. Outside, 2-0. Looking at the league leaders and the hardest to double play, hardest to double up at bats per double play. Dyson is 8th in the league. Joey Gallo is the toughest hitter in the American League to double up
because he swings straight up.
Two-one pitches inside his 3-1.
It's kind of interesting to think about. Explain that to me, please, Todd.
The 4th hardest to double up is a Houston Astro.
And he is Carlos Beltran.
You wouldn't guess that either.
No.
3-1 pitch, runner on the move. They aren't going to double him up, and Gonzalez better make the play to first. He does just in time. Marlin was going to try and wait for that ball to get the force at second, but then he realized it's Dyson running, and he had to hustle to make the play.
Yeah, you're hoping that ball was hit hard enough to have Marwin field that on top of second base, because then it might have had an opportunity to be that double play, but he had to make a quick decision and did so. Good play.
So a runner in scoring position with 2 outs, and Mike Zunino the batter. Astros with bullpen action for the first time today. Francis Martez begins to throw. Pitch away, 1-0. There's the 21-year-old right-hander. Rest of the bullpen watching the action behind him, including bullpen coach Craig Bjornson.
People don't know it, but he's been in the booth. I'm actually a little surprised that Twitterverse hasn't picked up on that.
Pitch into left field, sent into left by Zunino, and that's going to drive in a run. Zunino with a double scores Danny Valencia, and the Mariners extend their lead. It's now 4-1.
Baseball's not hit very hard. Kind of got in on Zunino, but he's able to pull the hands in enough to keep that fair down that left field line.
He's hit close to 300 since the end of May. Zunino's done a much better job as the season has gone along, and that will be the last batter Charlie Morton faces. Charlie will leave the game after 6 2/3. We'll tell you about Martez when we come back.
Seventh, Mariners leading the Astros 4-1. It's time to play Name That Astro. This is presented by your local Honda dealer. Here are your 3 clues today: tryout, anniversary, grand theft. Tweet us your best guess at ATT Sportsnet SW. We'll tell you who it is later in the broadcast. Todd.
Thank you, Julia. New pitcher on in the 7th, Francis Martez.
He's got 4 starts under his belt, making his 9th appearance with that 2-0 record. Fastball, slider, changeup. Average against him at 242. It's not too shabby for the youngster.
Guillermo Heredia, the batter. He doubled, scored a run his last time up. Martez coming on with a runner on second and 2 outs. Wednesday afternoon, middle of the summer. $1 dog day for National Hot Dog Day. 35,000.
That is awesome.
191.
Well represented. H-Town.
They're digging this Astros team. $1 dog day doesn't hurt either. 2-1 the count to Heredia. Plus they know they won't see this team for a while. Long road trip coming up. Team won't be back to the final day of this month. 2-2 the count.
97.
Well, it'll be interesting because not only are there spots in the rotation that are going to have to be decided. Colin McHugh coming back Saturday. Dallas Keuchel hopefully shortly after that. There are also spots in the bullpen that will have to be determined as well.
Yeah, because if those guys do come back healthy and are able to produce instantly coming into that rotation, you're going to see some guys have to be moved out of that rotation. Do they move into the bullpen, become that swing guy, that long guy? It will be interesting. And if we come off that road trip and there's some additions as far as pitching is concerned, there's some other choices to be made.
Martez was nasty in that sequence against Heredia and gets the strikeout. The Unlimited Baseball break presented by T-Mobile. Pitching matchup for the upcoming series against Baltimore at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Mike Myers will get the start on Friday night. Colin McHugh will make his 2017 Major League debut, and Lance McCullers Jr.
Some healthy ERAs to go after right there for the Astros. You talked about them averaging a very similar number to those ERAs on the road, and as far as games, runs per game.
Baltimore 5 games under 500 despite winning their last couple of games. And that's why there are rumors that the Orioles are going to be one of the sellers at the trade deadline. Astros down 4-1 in this game as we head to the bottom half of the 7th inning. Astros have not done well this year against this left-hander James Paxton. The only run they have scored in 3 starts that Paxton has made against the Astros was back in the 3rd inning today when Bregman singled, a sacrifice bunt, a stolen base, and a sacrifice fly.
And even with all the injuries that Paxton has had to deal with, they're not afraid to leave him out there for some extended outings. Thrown over 100 pitches plenty this season, topping out back in April against Texas, throwing 114 pitches. That was an 8-inning appearance, his longest of the season.
A little different mindset with Seattle. Here he is at 93 pitches, no bullpen action going. Usually if you're watching the Astros bullpen, for any starter not named Dallas Keuchel, if you're approaching 100 pitches, usually you start to see arms move out there.
Well, it might be because that bullpen for the Seattle Mariners is underneath in the clubhouse getting new shirts tailored, because they're going to have that one arm maybe an inch or two extended because they've thrown so many pitches in the last week or so.
As we speak, Steve Cishek is slowly heading toward the mound. 1-2 pitch ground to the third. Seager makes the sidearm play. Marwin retired. He's now 1 for 3 on the day. 1 out in the 7th. Three starts this year against the Astros. Paxton has gone 6 innings of 2-hit shutout baseball, 7 innings of 4-hit shutout baseball. Today, the most hits the Astros have had against him in his 3 starts, and the lone run score. Brian McCann looking for his first hit today. Takes a pitch outside for a ball, 1-0. McCann has grounded out and fly to center. How does Altuve have nails left?
Honestly, that might be the question of the year.
And he's filing them.
Yeah, but he is gnawing on those things consistently throughout games.
Pop up on the infield. Seager will take control right in front of the mound and make the play for out number 2.
Get a behind-the-scenes look at historic Union Station, luxury suites, the broadcast booth, and even the dugouts with the Minute Maid Park Tour. Visit Astros.com/tours or call 713-259-8996 to book your tour today. Hopefully they get rid of that mustard stain I left in here after eating those dogs.
Bib came in handy.
Yeah. I'm a mess. We've confirmed that over the years.
Foul ball off the bat of Bregman. They changed one of the errors in the 6th inning from an error to a hit.
What?
Yeah. Still getting clarification whether it was the Segura or Gamble ball. Either way, it turns an unearned run into an earned run because of the change in scoring. So Charlie Morton ends up giving up 4 earned runs in his 6 2/3 innings of work. Count is 1 and 2 on Bregman.
I'm not sure I like that. Not sure which one you could overturn.
They both should have been made.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Morton probably deserved the 1 error because he's the one that didn't cover the bag, but either way, they changed one of those to a base hit. – 4-1 Mariners lead. Astros batting 2 outs in the bottom half of the 7th inning and nobody on. Up the middle, Bregman has his 2nd hit of the game. Hit number 6 for the Astros, 2 from Alex, and he's a 2-out base runner.
Good job his first AB getting that base hit going the other way. This one going right back up the middle. Seems to be seeing the ball relatively well out of the left hand of James Paxton. Hasn't made too many mistakes obviously today. But we talked about Peacock yesterday throwing deep into that ball game and high pitch count. Much like this game for James Paxton, really hasn't had any high stress innings where he's really had to buckle down and pitch out of damage.
Cishek has been loose, warming up in the Mariners bullpen. If Marisnick gets on, we might see Cishek face George Springer. Take swings and misses to the fastball. Down to the count 0-2. Jake has a sacrifice bunt. He has also been struck out. One of 6 strikeouts for Paxton. Good news for Charlie Morton's line is that he didn't walk anybody today. Just the 2nd time this year without a walk. And off a 5-walk performance against the Twins. Paxton pumps his glove after that strikeout, picks up his 7th to end the 7th. And it's still 4-1. Lead the Astros. We head to the 8th inning. Astros need a rally to end up with a winning homestand. 3-2 coming into this game, wrapping up the homestand this afternoon. Seattle's already had a winning road trip locked up. They're 4-1 with a sweep in Chicago, and now ahead trying to take this series in Houston. Gene Segura will lead off, and he was the guy who had his error changed to a hit the last time up, so he's now 2 for 3 officially.
Much to the chagrin of Jose Altuve, who's competing at the top of that batting average list with Gene Segura.
They've been flipping leads in the AL batting race the last couple of days. Segura with that error change to a hit is now at 348. Now Altuve's at 351. Francis Martez in his first full inning of work. Came on and picked up a strikeout on Guillermo Heredia to end the 7th. Martez is an interesting case. He's 21. He's the top prospect according to Baseball America and the Astros organization. He's also a guy that projects as a starter. But can he be a valuable piece in the bullpen? We'll see what the Astros decide, but that's one of the many decisions they have coming up with roster spots, with McHugh about to be activated and Keuchel not long after that.
Yeah, he'll definitely be interested to see what happens with that rotation and what happens via the trade, because even though he may have the stuff, he's young enough, and his service clock is an issue also being a young pitcher, where the Astros might say, we like your stuff. We want you to go down to the minor leagues and develop a little bit more.
3-1 the count to Segura. Now the count's full.
Because as far as excuses to send a guy to AAA, he's probably the easiest excuse because of the age factor.
Yeah, I think the first decision, and it depends if they want to keep 2 lefties in the bullpen, but the latest addition to the roster was Ramin Gudwan.
Correct.
So he could be the first decision, but then the second decision will be tough, and it might be Martez. Because Musgrove might end up pitching out of the bullpen, it appears, at least at this juncture, as Martez makes the play for out number 1. Nice play by the right-hander.
Our high velocity stat is going to be presented to you by Xfinity. It's been a quiet night for Astro bats, so we have to look to the other side at Ben Gamble. Hit that home run earlier at 103.9 miles an hour off the barrel. Estimated 361 feet. But James Paxton has done a very good job of keeping those Astro bats quiet and out of the bleachers.
Gamble bats with the bases cleared and 1 out. First one foul. It's 0-1. Mariners and Astros don't see each other again until September. One more series in each city. This September series in Seattle is the 4th through the 6th, and then Seattle returns here to Houston the 15th through the 17th. Mentioned Major League Baseball season to me is the best reality show going because there's so many plot twists and turns, and we've had our share already in this series. The loss of Carlos Correa for 6 to 8 weeks. That was not a good episode of this year's reality series. The Astros season has been to this point historic. They start the day 32 games over 500 and a 16.5 game lead, which matches their biggest lead ever at any point of any season in franchise history. Good pitch, getting Gamble chasing. Gamble has been an impressive hitter in this series, and when they saw him in Seattle, but Martez made him look bad there.
Very good, very young, live arm. Francis Martez. It is a power slider down. What's interesting is that third pitch you saw that was fouled off was a 92-mile-an-hour changeup.
Wow.
High octane. But that's what makes him appealing too, because like you're saying, down the stretch, I mean, he's not an arm that's been seen by a lot of major league hitters, and he has great stuff. Just another look at that slider.
I'm intrigued. I am intrigued to see whether this guy stays in the bullpen or if they want to keep his arm stretched out as a starter. You know, it's a weird position to be in. We mentioned the 16.5 game lead, but also to be up 10.5 games in the American League. Because your ultimate goal is not only to win your division, it's to be the #1 seed in the American League. So they have a double-digit lead in that race too, over the Boston Red Sox. So they can make decisions both to try and win this year, but also, you know, where do they project Martez? Do they want him to be a guy that could be somebody who comes out of the bullpen? I mean, long term, you want to see him as a starter.
Yeah, and you're probably going to see him eat up a couple innings right here in this ball game. But yeah, you've got options with him, because once you take these guys who pitch in the mid-90s and put them in the bullpen for a condensed outing, they can get up there and bring it at 98 miles an hour.
I think he's excited to face Cano here.
I think so too.
He pitched his best game against the Yankees. He seems like one of those guys that the spotlight's bright, he's good.
But that's a good thing.
Yes.
And you want to see how these guys react in these situations. It's not a playoff situation, but down the stretch might have an opportunity to face one of these superior guys in the opposing lineup, and you want to see how he reacts. Does he fold, or does he come right after him like a bulldog?
He walked Cano, and Cano also has hit a double against him in the 2 previous meetings. One time he may have tried to overthrow that last pitch. Missed wide with it, just 3-2.
There is a certain sense of excitement when he's on the mound. I like watching him.
Good take by Cano on that pitch inside, and he draws the walk.
I'm telling you, I think that's that changeup at 93.
It's amazing.
But again, you talked about him overthrowing the fastball previously. Came back and overthrew the changeup.
93-mile-an-hour changeup. Doesn't compute. Here's Nelson Cruz, 0 for 3.
Pitch, you can see that is the circle changeup grip. Yet he's still able to create 93 miles an hour as far as velocity.
Good breaking ball. Freezes Cruz. Now it's 1-1. Two-run home run by Ben Gamble. Fielder's choice RBI by Robinson Cano. And an RBI double by Mike Zunino. That's how the Mariners have their 4 runs. Martez ahead 1-2. Astros led this game 1-0. The Mariners have come back with 4 unanswered runs. Walk behind the mound to compose himself. Facing one of the hottest hitters in baseball, Nelson Cruz, a 2-2 count and 2 outs in the 8th, trying to keep this game at 4-1.
Tying up Nelson with 97. Nelson does a very good job of hitting high velo. Against 94+ mile-an-hour fastballs, he's hitting 366 on the season.
Well, this is a legit challenge here. He freezes him on the inside corner. Beautiful pitch by Francis Martez to get Cruz looking, and that will end the top half of the 8th.
Mariners out in front. And it's time to name that Astro, presented by your local Honda dealer. These are your 3 clues. Tryout, anniversary, grand theft. Did we get any correct answers on Twitter?
I didn't see any.
Really?
But I nailed it.
So they Altuve.
Six years. Since the debut for Altuve. Nick Vincent, the new pitcher for Seattle.
It's one of the relievers out of that Seattle Mariner bullpen. Has been used quite a bit. Some issues last time out against these Houston Astros base runners. Astros happy to have Paxton out of this ball game.
Yeah, James Paxton very good for the 3rd consecutive start against the Astros. Vincent, who will pitch for the 5th time in 6 days, delivers a strike to George Springer. 0-1. George, a sac fly, a single, a line drive for the only time he was retired to center field. And it's 0-2. Paxton allowed just the 1 run today. He was trying to become one of the rare pitchers to go at least 3 consecutive starts of 6 innings scoreless against the Astros. Only had been done 5 previous times in Major League history. But had he done it and he allowed the 1 run today, it would have been much more impressive because it's the 2017 Astros.
Yeah, no doubt.
He is now sitting at 20 innings of work against the Astros this year and has allowed 1 run. 1-2 the count to Springer. Past the mound, tough play. Segura tries to barehand, no chance. Springer, a leadoff base runner.
That's all Segura had the opportunity to even think about trying to get. George Springer runs extremely well. Once that got past Vincent, that turned into a hit for me. See some good hustle from George Springer, staying on that cutter away. Head down, run through the bag.
Altuve and Springer batting 1st and 2nd in this inning. Amongst the top 5. Nelson Cruz also up there, all chasing Aaron Judge in the American League. Altuve 1 for 3 today. He sends one on the line to left. Heredia looks up. It's off the wall. Springer heads to 3rd. Altuve's going to go to 2nd. Springer is out at 3rd. Altuve into 2nd base.
Could they have gotten a more unlucky bounce off the wall? Ball shot right back off the manual scoreboard, right into the hands of Guillermo Heredia. This ball smoked off the bat of Jose Altuve, trying to get things going. Usually George is pretty good at going 1st to 3rd, but with that bounce off the wall, right to Heredia, that was like a relay throw. Kind of an interesting play at 3rd. Watch the slide from George, out by a mile, but he pulls back a little bit. Seager does a good job of going out and getting it. Unfortunate.
Here's Yuli Gurriel. So credit Altuve with a single. He goes to 2nd on the throw. One out in the 8th inning.
And yes, he made that 1st out of 3rd base, but I can't fault George for that. That ball ricocheted off that wall directly to Heredia.
Altuve will move over to 3rd on the ground out. Ball in dirt and it's low. Gurriel safe. Segura never got a good grip on that baseball. Yuli, who always hustles down the line, living on the air. So now the Astros back in business. Gave up an out, but they get one back.
This will actually be an error, I believe, on Segura with the low throw. Just kind of lackadaisical in the follow through on the delivery of 1st. They might have had a great grip on that ball, either watching the way he followed through.
Manager Scott Service out to the mound. Talked to Nick Vincent and also calls his infielders in about which defense they want to use here. 1st and 3rd, 1 out in a 4-1 game. Tying run at the plate.
Stottlemyre get ejected again?
I think Mel's still in there today.
Saw Scott Service. There's Mel Stottlemyre, the pitching coach for the Seattle Mariners. He wasn't making the mound visits yesterday because he was ejected in between that 2nd and 3rd inning of last night's ball game. But I agree with Todd in the sense that this is more of a strategic visit, and it also may be a visit to rally these guys and get them back focused on making some plays behind Nick Vincent.
Ball one.
Just hope he wasn't running out there to show the numbers of the Astros from the 7th inning on. They have a tendency to rack up some big numbers.
2 runners on. Gaddis the tying run at home plate. Last time Evan Gaddis faced Nick Vincent, he hit a home run. Out of play, 1-1. 1 for 3 in his career against Vincent. That last at bat, though, was a home run. Ahead 1-2. Vincent throws a lot of slider cutters, more than he does the fastball. Gaddis chasing upstairs. That's a big strikeout for the Mariners. Out number 2 in the inning. First strikeout for Vincent.
Normally that's not a place where you're successful against Evan Gaddis, especially at 89 miles an hour. He actually might have been too quick. Disappointed in himself.
Well, Scott Service saw Carlos Beltran pick up a base hit against Vincent in the first game of this series. They will not have that same matchup here. Vincent leaves. We'll tell you about the new Mariners reliever when we come back. On 2 outs, treat your employees, host clients, or even celebrate a special occasion with an Astros luxury suite at the ballpark. Reserve a suite and create a premium experience your group is sure to remember by visiting astros.com/suites or by calling 1-877-9-ASTROS. Scott Service electing to turn Carlos Beltran around to hit right-handed as he brings on the lefty Mark Zepchinski.
Look at Zepchinski's numbers. Left-handed specialist making his 34th appearance. Fastball in the low 90s. Also has a changeup and a slider. Beltran had his first right-handed home run of the season in that first game against Ariel Miranda, looking to try and bookend this series with a home run right here to tie it up for the Astros.
fastball in the outside corner for a strike. Carlos has reached base in 9 straight games, but has not reached base yet today. A couple of strikeouts, and he lined out to second. Another fastball painted on the corner yet again. Sevchinski hitting his spot with the first 2 deliveries. It's 0-2. Altuve on third, Gurriel on first. That one's in the dirt. Sevchinski likes throwing that slider when he gets to 2 strikes. The slider comes in around 83. Change-up around 85, 86. He's been throwing more change-ups this year than at any point in his career.
Keep it down. Beltran hoping for a mistake.
Going to miss at that slider, and that'll do it for the Astros in the 8th inning. 2 left on. We head to the 9th. It's 4-1.
Four to 1 over the Houston Astros, and we've got a pitching performance that's going to be powered by Kubota. Last night's starter Brad Peacock pitched extremely well going after the Seattle Mariners. In his last 6 starts, he's been extremely effective. 5-0 in those starts with the 1.83 ERA. The only blemish on there might be the walk. Sometimes loses command of that fastball. But last night we did not see that Brad Peacock. We saw him command the fastball early, just off the edges. And also had that power slider. That's why opponents are hitting a $185 against Brad Peacock during that stretch.
He said to Julia and others after the game he felt that was the best command he had all year. Allowed him to go 7 innings.
It looked pretty special.
First time he had gone 7 innings in almost 4 years. So on we go to the 9th. Astros had an opportunity in the 8th inning to cut into the lead. Couldn't take advantage. And Kyle Seager will lead off. Francis Martez has pitched an inning and a third so far, has walked 1 and struck out 3. Martez delivers a fastball outside for ball 1. Seager, Danny Valencia, Gerard Dyson. Gets the call in the corner there. It's 1-1. Seager has grounded out, popped up, and struck out. Astros have not lost many series this year, but the majority of their series losses have come here at home at Minute Maid Park.
The Those offensive numbers as far as runs per game dropped considerably because the pitching is actually relatively good here at Minute Maid Park.
Beltran, who was tested early in this game in left field on the first 2 hitters of the game, makes his first play since then as he retires Seager for the first out of the night.
And as we see Colin McHugh work back into that rotation and Dallas Keuchel hopefully working themselves back, leads to the question, who do you move back out there into that bullpen? We talked about Brad Peacock, possibly Joe Musgrove, but the numbers have not been good since June 3rd, which is interesting because the ERA is up, yet the opponent batting average at a .229 clip. So when they do make contact, it seems to be doing damage against that bullpen, but they could definitely use some help.
Well, that line of demarcation was the day after Keuchel went on the DL, and we touched on it last night. When you don't have that guy, that opening day starter who you feel like you can count on for at least 6 and usually 7 innings, all of a sudden you're starting to use the bullpen, not necessarily the way you want to, but kind of the way you're forced into based on the situation. 0-2 to Valencia, bounces up there. I think we'll see Musgrove in the bullpen available for at least the next game. And Colin McHugh will start on Saturday, and a roster move will have to be made. More than likely, because he was the last guy added on to the team, it would be Gudwan, but you'll see over the weekend who the Astros choose. 2-pitch away. Martez didn't like the way he landed there. It's 2-2.
So he doesn't want to land with his back completely to the hitter. Did a 180 on that.
Not ideal fielding position. And he gets Valencia there chasing. He made Gamma look bad on that same pitch, and now he gets Valencia. That's 4 strikeouts for Martez.
I think Martez qualifies for that effectively wild type.
Here's Gerard Dyson. Dyson has grounded out 3 times today, made a couple of nice plays in the outfield. Thinking about a drag bunt instead of strike 2 or strike 1, 1-1. Astros have only lost 6 series this year. Going to need a rally in the 9th to avoid losing their 7th. Of those 6 they've lost, 5 of them have been at home. They've only lost 1 road series in 2017.
It's interesting.
And that was at Cleveland, where they lost a couple of 1-run games to barely lose that series. They have been by far the best team in baseball on the road, with a record of 33-11 on the road, 30-20 coming into today at home.
Can you defer home field advantage?
Your choice.
Yeah, flip the coin. You take it.
You look at it. That was a beautiful breaking ball by Martez. He had a very nice 2 1/3 innings, picking up 5 strikeouts along the way. TNT Sportsnet is presented by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. And by Toyota. Let's go places. Never give up. Good time for that sign. Down 3, bottom half of the 9th inning. Astros will try to rally against the closer for the Seattle Mariners, who already has 4 saves since the All-Star break. Edwin Diaz.
Getting those 4 saves, he's thrown a ton of pitches and been a real workhorse for Scott Service. He threw 64 pitches in those 4 previous outings. Actually got the day off yesterday, but he is back out there again. Last time he was out there, Todd was talking about that 17th. It was where he picked up the save. He went an inning, punched out 2 Astros. Last took a loss back on the 8th of this month. Throws hard, has a good slider.
Young man with a strong right arm, and the Mariners anointing him the closing role, and he has really produced. The one thing he will do occasionally is have a streak of wildness, and the Astros wouldn't mind seeing that in this inning to try and get some runners aboard. And there's one down and in to Marwin Gonzalez.
There's a couple of things with the Astros. Their ability to be a threat, and also their ability to cut down on chase may cause some issues for pitchers that have a tendency to be wild.
Marwin was one of the strikeout victims when Diaz pitched here on Monday, and Edwin has come out of the bullpen and thrown 2 pitches out of the zone. It's 2-0.
Feels too good. He had a day off.
His first pitch strike is the lowest of all the relievers for Seattle. His first pitch strike percentage. There's a ground ball, gloved by Valencia. He'll take it to the bag himself, and Marwin retired for the first out of the night.
Marwin's had some bad luck. Got robbed earlier in this series against Gene Segura. That right there was a bullet, but Danny Valencia, Johnny on the spot.
Here's Brian McCann. Brian looking to reach base for the first time. He is grounded out, popped up, and flied out to center field. Fastball away. Back-to-back hitter, starting with a 2-0 count. So other than the ball put in play by Marwin Gonzalez, Diaz has missed with the other 5 pitches. There's a strike. McCann on the ground. Valencia will need help from his pitcher this time. Diaz covers for out number 2. So Astros down to their last out, trailing 4-1. First game without Carlos Correa was last night. Houston put up 6 runs in that game, but today, facing the left-hander James Paxton, who they have had no success against this year. Did score a run against him, but that's it through 7 innings. Then Nick Vincent worked through some trouble, along with Mark Zepchinski, who got a big out to end the 8th. And now Edwin Diaz with 2 outs and nobody on in the 9th. Alex Bregman has 2 of the Astros' 8 hits today. He's down in the count 0-2.
Ooh, good take.
Now it is.
Power fastball on the edge, 99 miles an hour.
Trying to hold up, just staying alive. 2-2. Danley did not need that. 2 outs, 2 strikes in the 9th inning.
Oh, he's taken a couple of foul tips today. Squared him up pretty good. And again, when you get a guy throwing with the velocity that Diaz doesn't slow down on the foul tip as it makes its way back. Jeremiah checking on Kerwin Danley back there. Seems to have a sense of humor about him, but he's going to give him a little bit of a breather, which is awfully nice.
Slow walk back from the mound by Mike Zunino gives him some extra time as well.
As long as he doesn't say he's in Dallas, he's okay.
Counts 2-2 on Bregman. Now it's 3-2. The counts have been in the Astros' favor this inning. 2-0, 3-0. Now the count full on Bregman. And ball 4. So Bregman, after getting down in the count 0-2, draws a walk. Jake Marisnick was due up, but he'll be lifted for a pinch hitter. Josh Reddick out of the dugout to hit for Jake. Still need one more runner to bring the tying run to the plate. But it gives the fans who haven't had a lot to cheer about today a chance to woo a little bit here in the ninth.
Very rarely do we see the Astros go away relatively quietly. They somehow, some way create a base runner, whether it be the walk, base hit, get on in an error. The wildness of Diaz allows Bregman to get on after getting ahead in that count. Josh Reddick. He's getting loose for his AB while Mel Stoudemire's on the mound. Proceeded to almost toss his bat to the mound.
Reddick's a tough AB because he's always going to battle you. He'll foul off some pitches, and if a guy like Diaz is struggling with his control and he's thrown 10 out of 16 out of the strike zone, Reddick will be patient up there. Count it in, 2-0.
One thing we've seen in this homestand is Josh Reddick, when there's been a mistake middle in, he has gotten the head out abruptly and hooked it into that right field corner.
Gets the call on a pitch that was not even close to the corner. Guy's been struggling with his control, and he gets that pitch called.
Wow.
Now it's 2-2. Bregman took second, fielder's indifference. Like Bregman, Reddick down to his last strike. And he goes down swinging. So Diaz strikes out Josh Reddick to end the game. Picks up his first strikeout of the inning and picks up his 5th save in Seattle's 6th game since the All-Star break. And for the first time this year, the Mariners have won a series against the Astros, taking 2 out of 3 in this set at Minute Maid Park.
Rough day for the Astros, so our player of the game is going to be brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. It's going to be James Paxton. The Astros still trying to figure him out. They were able to manufacture a run. First run they've scored off him this season in 3 starts for James Paxton, but you see 7 strong, 7 punch outs. Very effective against these Houston Astros.
So the Mariners with a 5-1 road trip, taking 2 out of 3 from the Astros, win it 4-1. We'll have plenty more, including the post-game show coming up next.